Hey everybody, Dave here with another Pathfinder rule reminder for you. And today we're going to be talking about gambling in Pathfinder. This was a question that recently came up of how do you make gambling work in a tabletop RPG? Are there rules in place to ensure that the players don't just completely break everything by winning billions and billions of gold coins? And how would you manage players who want to either play into the character trait of being a gambler, like a Lando Calrissian fantasy character type, or how would you handle characters who want to do like an Ocean's 11 style heist with casino games? So we're going to talk about a couple of those pieces. Primarily, we're going to be talking about the gambling activity itself, and you can probably take these pointers and ideas and craft them into a larger story if that's what you want. So there are a couple of different ways to manage player gambling in your game, and each of them kind of have their own strengths and weaknesses, and we'll talk through each of these in turn. The first is just going to be your regular earn income activity. This is a downtime activity where on days where there's no adventuring going on, you can give your players the opportunity to do a downtime activity. And for some people, that could mean I'm going to go craft. For some people, that could mean I'm going to go work in the local tavern. And for some players, that could be I want to go to the local casino and see if I can make some money. And gambling as an earn income activity works exactly the same way as any other earn income activity. The only difference is going to be in the narrative, however you describe it occurring, but it's going to be an entire day or roughly 8-ish hours of activity in the casino, and it comes down to one die roll. And that die roll will determine how much of a profit is generated by that character in their gambling activities for that day of downtime. They will need to use an appropriate lore skill to do this, most likely either casino lore or game lore. And if you want detailed information of how that works, I'll make sure I link in the comments section or the description of this video my previous videos on the earn income activity that really goes through the nuts and bolts of how earn income works. I will mention that there is a spell that was released, I think, in Secrets of Magic called Nudge the Odds. And the Nudge the Odds spell allows a person to get a +1 bonus to their game's lore rolls for 1 hour, and it turns any critical failures into regular failures. So the base version cannot be used with earn income because it only has a 1 hour duration. But if you increase it to 5th level, I believe, it becomes an all day activity and you specifically can use it as part of your downtime activities. Now, on the downside of using this spell is one facial feature determined by the GM is turned golden for the duration of the spell. So this is a pretty clear tell that you are using some sort of magic to enhance your abilities. Whether or not the people in the casino can recognize it will come down to a recall knowledge check on their end. But just be aware that there is the danger of getting busted pretty easily using the nudge the odds spell. So that is the first option, earn income. Benefits super simple. It comes down to one die roll. It's earn income activity. It inherently does not require a lot of time at the game table. You can knock it out at the same time everybody else is doing their crafting or their retraining or whatever their downtime activities are. The downside of it is it comes down to one die roll. So if you have a player that's really wanting to invest, or if you're trying to craft a meaningful narrative that revolves around gambling and games of chance, then it's probably not going to be super fulfilling for them. But that kind of leads us to our second option, which is Book 3 of the Agents of Edgewatch adventure path called All or Nothing. Has in its back matter, or in its adventure toolbox, I think they call it, a number of different real world gambling, games of chance converted into the Pathfinder setting that you can play out at the game table. Now, the plus side is that these are much more immersive experiences than just an earn income role. The downside is your players are going to be playing this for real, using their own noggins and their own abilities, not their characters. So one thing in common with these, I think is three from All or Nothing that I'll be sharing in a second, is none of them interact with character sheets. So none of them interact with games lore as a skill, interact with casino lore, would be impacted or interact with the nudge the odds spell. You are playing these games for real, so to speak, at your game table, but with the characters' money and their ability to profit from it. Also, I'll mention that all three of these games are available on Archives of Nethys, and I will include links to those write-ups in the description of this video, in case you don't have the All or Nothing adventure. So the first is a game called Golem, and Golem is sort of like the Pathfinder's version of poker. The idea is that you have a number of players sitting around the table, and there's a dealer, and those players are trying to build the best poker hand out of their cards. Now, I'll say that the write up doesn't tell you the rules of poker. I think it just references poker and says, like, to determine who has the winning hand is the same rules as poker. So you might need to go to Wikipedia or some other resource online to find out, when a full house beats a straight flush and all those kind of rules, but it's going to use those familiar rules. The game is played in rounds. Ante is usually capped at 5 gold. Everybody matches the current bet or the ante, and then they can either raise or fold, just kind of like in poker where you go in rounds. Betting continues until all players have matched the current bet or they have folded, and then each player may discard up to 2 of their cards and draw 2 new cards. So everybody's still in the game. If they've matched the current bet for that round, they can discard 0, 1, or 2 of their cards and then draw in new ones. Those cards are going to be placed face down on the table so none of the other players can see what was discarded. And those cards now all belong to the Golem. Essentially, the dealer at the table is going to take all those cards and keep them, and they are the Golem, and those cards now belong to the Golem. If everybody folds except for one player, that player wins the pot, minus 5% that goes to the house. In Golem, the house always gets 5% of the pot, no matter what the outcomes are. If at least 2 players match that bet at the end of the round, then the dealer frees the Golem. And then the Golem is going to flip over all of their cards and make the best possible poker hand that they can out of all of the cards that were discarded by the players who are in that round. And if one of the players has the best hand and beats the other players and the Golem, then that player wins the pot, minus 5% that always goes to the house. And if no player beats the Golem, then you start over again. You're going to double the size of the current ante and start over again. And you keep playing until every round, if nobody beats the Golem, you start again and double it and double it and double it. And it's going to end when one player eventually beats the Golem and they get whatever is in that pot minus the 5% that goes to the house. So that's Golem, which is kind of basically like poker. The second game from All or Nothing is called Bounder, which I believe is kind of like craps. I should probably confess that I'm not a gambler, so I may be wrong. Let me know in the comments if I'm goofing it up. I think this is supposed to be like craps. This is played with a bunch of gamblers standing around a table throwing dice, and each of them goes in turns. There is a shooter, and that's whose ever turn it is, and then there is a dealer. So shooters are going to roll 2d20, and the dealer is going to roll 3d6. And the goal is, if you're the shooter, you want to bound the total of the dealer's 3d6. And bounding means one of your d20 numbers is lower than the dealer's 3d6 total, and your other d20 is higher than the 3d6 total from the dealer. So you're on either side, you're on either bounds. You are bounding the dealer's 3d6 total. So the way this is going to work in turn is whoever is the shooter is going to roll one d20. Only one of their two dice is rolled first. And whatever that total is called the point. At that point, the shooter can choose to double their stake, double their bet based on their first d20 result. So if they throw that first die and it's a 1, a 2, a 19, or a 20, then they know they're going to have at least one die on one side of the 3d6, because 1, 2, 19, and 20 are not possible totals for 3d6. So they're going to say, yeah, automatically I'm going to double my stake. And they can also choose to double it. I mean, if they roll a 5, they might choose to double it because it's still odds are good, but so on and so forth. They get the opportunity to double it. If they roll a 9 on that 1d20, they probably don't want to risk doubling their stake. At that point, all the other gamblers who are not the shooter on the table can choose whether or not they want to bet on the final result. So they can throw in a stake and say, I think the shooter is going to win based on this first roll on this point. I think they're going to win. They're going to bound the dealer's rolls, so I'm going to throw 10 gold into the pot or whatever. At that point, the dealer is going to roll their 3d6. Now, it says it varies from gambling location to location, but some casinos, before the dealer rolls their 3d6, will allow all the gamblers at the table to place bets on what the 3d6 total is going to be. Or actually not the total, but you can make a side bet and say, I think the dealer is going to roll all odd numbers, or I think they're going to roll all even numbers, or I think they're going to roll 3 of a kind. And if you bet that they're going to roll all odd or all even, you get basically double back. You get the same amount as what you staked in profit. And if you bet that they are going to roll 3 of a kind, you get triple. Now, I'm going to give me 1 second to check here, because I have on my form here the odds. Yeah, the odds of the dealer rolling all evens or odds on 3d6 is less than a 13% chance. And the odds of rolling 3 of a kind is less than 3%. So these sound like pretty bad bets to me, but that is something that is an option when playing Bounder. So then the dealer rolls their 3d6, you see the total. And from there, if the total is equal to the first 1d20 that the shooter rolled, then the shooter automatically loses and everybody loses their stake on that. In order to win Bounder, you have to have one lower than and one higher than. Any die that equals the total of the dealer automatically loses. And then the shooter is going to roll their other d20 and see if they win. If they end up with having one of their d20 results being lower than the dealer's 3d6 total and one higher, they're going to they're going to win an amount equal to their stake. And if any other scenario happens, either they tie or both numbers are lower or both numbers are higher, then they lose their stake. The odds of this, it says, is about 40%. The shooter should win about 40% of the time. And after one person plays as the shooter, then you just go like clockwise around the table, and the next gambler gets their chance to be the shooter, and it just repeats and repeats for as long as people want to play and have fun. So that brings us to our third casino game, our game of chance from the All or Nothing book for Agents of Edgewatch. And that's a game called Century, which I believe is like Keno. Um, and this is kind of just like a lottery. So basically, what happens is the house is going to be randomly generating 20 numbers, and those numbers are going to be between 1 and 100. And you can choose to bet between 2 and 10 times. So you can choose two numbers between 1 and 100, or you can choose 10 numbers between 1 and 100, or anywhere between there. And for every number that you pick that is drawn or rolled by the house, then you're going to win an amount of money. And if you don't, then you lose your money. So it is basically just a lottery system as far as I can tell. There is a handy chart that's in the book that shows you the amount of money that is won if you correctly guess the numbers. So for example, we can see on this chart, if you predicted two numbers and you got one of those right, you're going to win times one, which basically just means you're breaking even. They're going to give you back the money that you bet. If you made 7 predictions, or you chose like 7 lottery numbers, if that's an easier way to think of it, and 4 of those came correct, you're going to get double your money back. If you made 10 predictions and you got 6 of those 10 right, you're going to get 20 times your stake back. So it's purely a lottery. You're basically guessing numbers, and then the GM who's playing the house will roll 1d100 20 times, and that's how we generate our numbers. And if you correctly predict a certain number of those 1d100 rolls, then you are potentially going to get a payout. If you made 10 predictions and got 4 of them right, you're going to get nothing. If you do 10 predictions, you got to get at least half of those right out of 1 to 100. So unsurprisingly, the odds are always going to be in the house's favor. So that is basically how Keno works. So we have our first option is earn income. Super simple, super easy. It interacts with your character's skills, but it's not super immersive. Second option, take one of those 3 games out of All or Nothing. They are very immersive, but they're also time consuming, and they don't interact at all with your character sheet. It's entirely based on what you as a human being, as a player, choose to do. The last option is kind of a happy middle ground between the two, but it's definitely going to take some work on your end as a GM, and that is just to use the victory point system. Out of the Game Mastery Guide or out of GM Core, build your own game using the rules for the victory point system, where your players can do skill checks in a gaming environment with the potential of earning victory points, and then set a certain amount of payout at the end of the games based on how many victory points they earn. I'm not going to dive deeper than that at this time. I may make a true deep dive video about victory points in the future, but that is a third option that's kind of a happy middle ground between all of these options. So that's it for today. If you have any questions about these gambling rules in Pathfinder, please let me know in the comments below. Also, this is the kind of thing that I imagine GMs and games have been doing for a while now. So if you have your own tips, your own games, the way that you've used games lore or casino lore in the past to generate income or to generate a gaming feel in your session, let me know in the comments as well. Share that with all of our viewers out there. And as always, I want to take a quick moment to say thank you to everybody out there who supports me, whether that's by clicking the like button, subscribing to the channel, subscribing to the Patreon, buying a super thanks. I really appreciate everything you folks do to support me. And with that, thanks for watching. Take care and happy gaming.